What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Michael, and today I'm taking you through an extremely fun Skyrim build, the Orc Warchief. Some of you may have been familiar with the Orc Warchief before YouTube deleted him, but now he's back and more powerful than ever before. As you can see, the Orc Warchief is an orc, just in case you didn't know. He doesn't use any mods, and his backstory goes like this. The Orc Warchief was not always an Orc Warchief. Instead, his father was. Because of this, I'll refer to him as the Chief's son for now. The Chief's son was the third son and had a reputation for being extremely strong. Currently in the backstory, he is only 14 years old, but already has the strength of many of the orc adults. He put them to shame, and he could hold a warhammer in one hand, and felt comfortable in the heaviest of armors. His father, the past Orc Warchief, was very proud of his third son and was certain he would one day take his position. Their stronghold was situated in High Rock, and the son's father was renowned as a great leader, having led the orcs to peace and victory in many situations over the years. Unfortunately, Breton lords lived nearby, and these lords despised the orcs. They considered the stronghold an ugly stain on the lands and a threat to the well-being of themselves and others. One particular lord from around the area began using his money to create some serious pressure for the orcs to leave. Eager not to be blamed for anything, the Lord hired stealthy groups to burn forest areas, hunt all the game in the location, and even spread disease. The orcs always suspected the noblemen were to blame, but they had no evidence at all, so they couldn't act on it. As time went by, the orcs still didn't leave. The Breton Lord contacted the stronghold, proposing a meeting to negotiate terms of departure. The orcs could perhaps be paid in coin and plenty of resources to leave. The orcs were untrusting towards the Breton Lord, however, because they suspected that he was behind the burning of forest and killing off of game, they decided they would send a group to meet with him. Diplomacy would come before warfare, and if the Lord promised a ridiculous amount of resources, they'd be happy to go somewhere else. A small squad of powerful orcs and the current Orc Warchief, the father of our character build, go to meet at a local farmhouse with the Breton Lord and a group of knights. However, this turns out to be a trap. Upon entering the farmhouse, all the doors are locked up and the place is set alight. The Bretons planned to kill the Warchief. They wanted to cut the head off the snake. Screaming in pain, the orcs were burning alive in the barn but managed to break out. It was here they came face to face with Breton knights who were waiting to defeat them. The orcs were damaged and half dead, and even though they put up a fight, it was here their lives ended. Our build character, the Chief's son, was off hunting that day when he sees smoke coming from his stronghold. The Breton knights hired by the Lord were attacking, and Red Guard mercenaries were even hired to fight alongside them. The Chief's son races back to see all of this and runs into the stronghold through a gap in the wall to avoid being seen. He sees his brothers being cut down and flies into a berserker rage. Seething with energy, the Chief's son grabs the nearest fully plated Breton knight, and tackling him to the ground, he begins smashing in his helmet with a burly rock. Blood squelches out the sides of his helmet as it quickly becomes concave. After killing the Breton, the orc grabs a fallen brother's warhammer and goes to fight another opponent. Gritting with fury, he swings it with all his strength into the side of the enemy's knee, and hits it so hard it actually breaks off almost entirely, shattering and leaving his leg connected by a strand of flesh as thin as hair. The battle goes on, and the full attacking party of 20 is destroyed, with the Orc Warchief build responsible for 11 of these deaths. Remember, he's only 14 years old. He is the sole survivor and goes to look for his father. He goes out of the stronghold and across to the farmhouse, finding a pile of orc bodies with a pike through the middle, a pike holding up the head of his deceased father. Devastated but hardy, the orc turns and leaves. The orc plots revenge against the Breton Lord, however for the next 2 years he works for a local logging mill. Every day he would work hard picking up logs and chopping them apart, and he would grow stronger. After each day at the mill, he would also train with a hammer, so that one day he would undoubtedly slay the Breton Lord. After patiently waiting, the Chief's son had earned enough money from the mill to pay a spy for information about the Lord who originally orchestrated the attack. The spy then tells him where the Lord will be traveling next, and it turns out he's traveling to Cyrodiil, being escorted by about 6 well-trained knights. With this info, the orc now knows the route the Bretons are going to take, and so he ventures to a narrow pass they will be traveling through. The noble lord and his knights approach the pass, but in this narrow pass is a bear feasting upon the corpse of a rancid deer. The group gets a bit too close to the bear and the creature begins to feel threatened. Entering a fight or flight mode, the bear chooses to fight and charges at the group of Bretons unexpectedly. With a fight breaking out, the Lord is escorted by the 2 knights away from the bear and out of the passage. 4 knights remain behind fighting the bear so the trip can continue. However, it is now that a bunch of boulders fall down from a nearby cliff face, blocking the passage off and separating the 4 knights from the escorted Lord and his 2 knights. Even if the 4 knights defeat the bear, they would be unable to go and protect the Lord. It is now that the Orc Warchief comes down from the cliff face, hammer in hand, to smash apart the bones of the Lord and his 2 remaining knights. Satisfied with his trap and his revenge, the Orc Warchief, our build, spends his next few years seeking out other Orc strongholds with plenty of women in Cyrodiil, and sadly it doesn't have much luck. He hears of strongholds in Skyrim and knows there are more there, and so he heads to Skyrim to start a tribe again. He has no allegiance to anyone but the orcs and has zero respect for assassins and thieves. He's not a fan of magic, but he respects strength, honor, and courage. He's a devout follower of Malakath's code and will find a lot of purpose by carrying out his bidding. He will have to learn smithing himself, as he did not learn it within the strongholds. It was a task that mostly females carried out. Anyway, so with keeping the whole idea of following Malakath in mind, you're gonna want to do the quest for Malakath. This quest is called the Cursed Tribe, and you can start it by heading off to a settlement known as Largashpa. This will not only go well with role-playing the build as a follower of Malakath, but also will allow you to get the weapon you'll want, the Daedric artifact known as Volendrung. For those unfamiliar with this warhammer, it swings faster than normal warhammers, giving it the speed of a greatsword or battle axe. It has an enchantment which allows you to absorb 50 points of stamina per strike, and the damage it deals can be smithed up with an ebony ingot. This damage is also very high anyway, and the aesthetic of the hammer fits in with the theme of the Orc Warchief perfectly. You will have to wait till you're level 10 before starting the quest. This weapon, originally known as the Hammer of Might when it was forged by the Dwemer hundreds of years before their disappearance, is going to go well alongside the rest of your gear, which involves a full set of ancient Nordic armor, except for the helmet, which will be the Helm of Njol. This is a unique helmet that looks quite different to your normal ancient Nordic helmet. So obviously using Volendrung, your main combat skill, is going to be two-handed, and dressed in the ancient Nordic armor you see here, we'll be using the heavy armor skill as well. Your helmet is also heavy armor and gives you a 30% resistance to frost and can be smithed up with a steel ingot. It has a nice solid armor rating for protection, and if you haven't picked up on it already, smithing is the next skill you're going to need to make sure you deal as much damage as you can while taking as little damage as possible. You're also going to want to achieve this through your Berserker Rage power, which will come in handy at almost every level in the game. It will also cover you in blood if you're not drenched in it enough already. Okay, so now that you're all decked out as the Juggernaut type of character you are, you're going to also need to use the block skill. Although you won't be using a shield, the block skill will allow you to obviously block more effectively, and fitting in with the theme so far, you'll take less damage. It also allows you to use the Quick Reflexes perk to slow down your enemies during their power attacks. You'll also want all your in-game choices to fit in with the sturdy type of atmosphere of this build. For example, when you meditate on a word of power from Paarthurnax, make sure you choose Fus, so you stagger less and make enemies stagger more. The perk link for the Orc Warchief will be in the description so you can see all the perks you need. While you're there, be sure to check out the other links to our social media pages like Instagram and Twitter. The stat stone for the Orc Warchief is the Lord Stone, and this makes him even more of a tank by giving him 50 more points of armor rating and gives him a 25% resistance to magic. He will have a stat spread of 70% health to be very hard to kill, and 30% stamina to sprint and deliver a solid amount of power attacks. As for the playstyle, we've basically explained it already. Be a tank, be merciless, and be aggressive. You're going to want to just smash the absolute life out of anything that opposes you and opposes orcs, and also be strategic with your blocking, bashing, and counter-striking. How does the Orc Warchief fight in battle? However the hell he likes. And that brings back another Skyrim build to FudgeMuppet, the amazingly powerful Orc Warchief. Thank you very much for watching. There will be another Skyrim build on Sunday as usual, and please do subscribe if you love Skyrim and want more. Social media links are in the description. My name is Michael, and I'll see you soon to nerd out with more Elder Scrolls and Fallout goodness.